Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. I'm Aaron Porras, here with ILTV's Morning Briefing.
Israel has just slammed a controversial new Irish bill, which would criminalize trade deals with any Israeli firms in the West Bank, East Jerusalem, or the Golan Heights. Prime Minister Netanyahu has already summoned Ireland's ambassador for an emergency meeting to discuss the bill, which according to the Prime Minister is nothing short of a full-on pro-BDS embrace. The legislation in its current form would allow Ireland to punish anyone who does business with Israeli companies in any of the so-called occupied territories, with up to 5 years in jail. International protest against the bill erupted within hours of its announcement. That's probably why, in a shocking reversal, the Irish Senate has already frozen the legislation completely. As of now, it remains unclear when or even if the Senate will vote on this bill at a future time. That could mean this legislation has already been defeated. If passed, this would have been the first ever law in Europe to criminalize business with Israeli firms in the settlements. Following the Trump administration's controversial decision to slash nearly half of its aid to the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, the United Nations warns that Gaza may be nearing a fatal, total systems crash. An emergency meeting of international donors is now gathering to address the crisis. Israel will offer a $1 billion plan to help Gaza, one that would be funded completely overseas. International leaders have warned the United States that the aid cuts to UNRWA may have deadly consequences for millions of Palestinian refugees worldwide, including those in Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, and Gaza. Yesterday, aid workers, doctors, and teachers boycotted throughout the Strip amidst growing tensions in the wake of the aid deficit. Foreign nations have recommitted new dollars to help fill the gap, but the United Nations envoy in Gaza warns that at this rate it may be too little too late. Israel is proposing today a plan to completely overhaul Gaza's infrastructure and reverse the humanitarian crisis. The pitch includes ambitious projects like new desalination plants, electric lines, and a completely new gas pipeline, which is why the cost of the proposal is roughly $1 billion. Israel has offered its first-hand know-how of the territory as well as its expertise in technology to help bring this project to life, but says it will not finance any of it, leaving the funding purely in the hands of overseas donors. United States President Donald Trump delivered his first State of the Union address last night, touching on many subjects, both foreign and domestic, in his hour and 20-minute speech. Among the more noteworthy moments, however, was when Trump addressed his recent decision to recognize Jerusalem and how the blowback has shaped his foreign policy going forward. He said that shortly after recognizing Jerusalem in December, quote, "Dozens of countries voted in the United Nations General Assembly against America's sovereign right to make this decision. In 2016, American taxpayers generously sent those same countries more than $20 billion in aid. That's why tonight I'm asking Congress to pass legislation to help ensure American foreign assistance dollars always serve American interests and only go to friends of America, not enemies of America." End quote. He later went on, among other things, to emphasize his support for the Iranian people, but opposition to the Iranian government. He also again quoted his disdain for the Iranian JCPOA nuclear agreement signed by his predecessor, President Barack Obama. And though many issues like the allegations of collusion with Russia were avoided, overall there was a positive tone to the speech. He said, quote, "Tonight I call upon all of us to set aside our differences, to seek out common ground, and to summon the unity we need to deliver for the people we were elected to serve." End quote. In a snap poll conducted by CNN and SSRS, 70% of respondents expressed positive views of Trump, with nearly 50% of them expressing very positive views. 24 states in the United States have now enacted some form of anti-BDS legislation prohibiting their respective states from going into business with persons or companies participating in the boycott of the Jewish state. But after a federal judge's recent decision, it seems that at least for now, Kansas is not going to become state number 25. United States District Judge Daniel Crabtree ruled yesterday against anti-BDS legislation proposed in Kansas, arguing that the Supreme Court supports the First Amendment right to participate in such boycotts. The bill will now be fought for in court, but as the case proceeds, enforcement of the recently passed legislation will be blocked completely. Further, Judge Crabtree found that it's, quote, "highly likely that the law will be found invalid due to infringements of constitutional rights." In Judaism, there's a phenomenon known as having a chained wife, which is when an unhappy couple doesn't split because the husband refuses to sign the divorce papers. Such actions in Israel, in severe cases, can result in the husband's imprisonment. But now, the Haifa Rabbinical Court is ruling in favor of a chained husband who wishes to remarry but couldn't due to his estranged wife's refusal to sign off. The couple has been estranged for over 8 years now and living apart for at least the past 4. But when told by the courts to allow the divorce, the wife said, quote, "I will not divorce whatsoever, only death will part us," end quote. The husband, however, shared a different story, claiming his wife has now had several relationships with other men since the split, but still refuses to sign the divorce papers. According to the rabbinical judge's decision, quote, The court does not believe that the sides will ever return to life together. The husband is disgusted with his wife and the wife is disgusted with her husband, and in many opinions it would be permissible to forcibly divorce her." End quote. All that's left now is to wait for final approval by Chief Sephardic Rabbi Yitzchak Yosef, who's expected to give his approval quite readily.
That's all for now. I'm Aaron Porras, and see you later with our main daily broadcast from Israel at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.